Hey, what's up, you guys? It's me, and I'm back because I wanted to talk about something that's really been annoying me these last couple of weeks. With this whole Spider-Man leaving the MCU news, first I wasn't going to say anything because it just felt unnecessary. I just assumed it was going to, not last very long, and they'd come back to the table, they'd make some sort of deal because it's really in both of their best interests to stay together rather than separate because it'll just add a lot of tension to everything. But on Thursday, September 5th, Sony's CEO came out and he said that for the moment, the door is closed, meaning that Spider-Man is out of the MCU. And this really this has really angered me because there's a lot of issues with what he says. And even though, of course, I don't work at Sony, I don't know exactly. But, based off of what he's saying, it just doesn't add up to what everyone else is been reporting, and it's just kind of annoying because I don't think he understands that he's making a big mistake. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Just for those of you that don't know what's been happening, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Sony and Disney, it was announced that Spider-Man was leaving the MCU because Disney came to the table with a bad deal and Sony rejected it. Which, I don't really want to say whose fault this is because it's a little bit of both, It's both two stubborn companies refusing to give in. But reportedly, Disney wanted to do a 30-70 split on all Spider-Man properties, meaning they would pay for 30% of all of them and, get a larger return than what they were getting, where they were getting 5% of the box office from the Spider-Man films. This being said, Disney does own the merchandising rights to Spider-Man, meaning that all toys, all t-shirts, everything with Spider-Man on it being sold, all that money goes to Disney. So Sony rejected the deal and, they both walked away from the table. Most people assumed that they would come back to the table at some point and, figure it out. And I think that's what most people still are hoping will happen. It just might take longer than expected. But I have a lot of issues with what the CEO was saying in this interview with Variety. And it really just kind of annoyed me to the point where I felt like I needed to make a video talking about it and kind of at least express how I'm feeling about it to you guys. Because, I don't know if you guys are Spider-Man fans, but I feel like at least you guys should know what's happening. The first thing I want to talk about is the door being closed, as the CEO put it. I think that this is a really dumb decision, and I think that, I'm not trying to be mean to Sony, but this is going to hurt you a lot more than it's going to hurt the MCU, because it's going to be harder to take Spider-Man out and keep the story intact than you think it's going to be. Both Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home have had a large setting within the MCU and have been setting a lot of stuff up, not only for the MCU, but relying on the MCU. So then it puts a giant crack in the pavement of this universe that you've been building. So to take him out, he no longer has, any sort of Tony Stark connection or any type of Nick Fury or S.H.I.E.L.D. connection, and he can't even really mention those characters by name. It's going to be a lot harder to take that out than I think you think it is. I'm not saying it won't hurt Marvel too, because now they can't even mention Spider-Man. Like, if the Avengers all meet up, they can't be like, hey, where's Spider-Man? They can't say that. So it'll hurt the MCU, but it's going to be a lot harder for you to remove him than you think. And people don't want to see you reboot Spider-Man again. People really like the Spider-Man. They don't want to see him go. So I think that you're making a big mistake there. And, of course, the MCU will have to deal with taking Spider-Man out, too. But they have a lot more characters to play with. They can just ignore the problem for a while until people hopefully forget about it. Or they can just, they'll figure something out. Even if you're not going to do this forever, it's only going to be for like a movie or something. The MCU wasn't planning on putting Spider-Man in any major films for like a few years anyways, so they'll just ignore the problem for now and hope it goes away. But for you have to directly deal with what you've done by taking him out, because you're going to make another movie, and it's going to be Spider-Man 3 with Tom Holland, so you're going to have to figure out how you're going to deal with that. And I don't know why you feel like that's necessary when you could strike a deal with Disney. I'm sure that it wouldn't be that much harder. Okay, I take almost I take almost personal offense to the statement by Tony, the CEO, that Kevin Feige is stretched too thin, because he's saying that he's stretched too thin with Marvel Phase 4 and 5, but that's not really that true, is it? People working at Sony have reported that Kevin Feige's been helping uncredited with pretty much all the Spider-Man movies that have come out all the way back to, Tobey Maguire. So how is it that he's now stretched too thin? I understand that, yes, Phase 4 and Phase 5, they're doing a lot more, but, I mean, it's another movie or two. I don't think that Kevin Feige said that he was stretched too thin. I don't think he has an issue with it. So I think you really have to question what you mean by that, because I think that's a really bad reason. I think that's a little bit of BS, if we're being honest. Okay, so Tony was also quoted as saying that the Marvel people are terrific, and that, with all due respect, they have some good people of their own, and Kevin didn't do all the work. And I don't think anyone was ever saying that Kevin did do all the work. I think people are saying that Kevin did a lot of work even when he wasn't credited as doing such, even when he was just doing it because he wanted to do it. So, yes, I respect every single person working on every single Spider-Man film, pre-production, production, post-production, every single camera person, director. They're all important. They all make the movie. Every single special effects person, every single person in that list of credits as they roll deserves a round of applause because they are doing great work. But you still got to understand that Kevin Feige was helping to, course correct on things. He was helping with, some of the story issues. He was especially making sure that Spider-Man felt like he was actually a part of the Marvel Universe, which is what people want. People love Spider-Man, but it's way more fun when you get to watch Spider-Man interact with the other Avengers.
You got hard, kid. Where you from?
Queens?
Brooklyn.
We don't get to do that, especially not in live action form. I love the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire because they're great. They're great Spider-Man films. They nice little universe. But it's way more fun to have him interacting with other characters. It's just, now that we've had it, we don't want to go back from that. And as much as you say that, Kevin didn't do all the work, I do want to look at what the change has been since Spider-Man's been put into the MCU versus what you used to have. Because let's look at the movies that you've made without Marvel. Let's just look at them. Because I want to kind of rank them in order of best to worst. You have made some truly great films like Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2. They're really good Spider-Man films, basically perfect. There's not very many issues with them. And then you have a really good Spider-Man film in the first Spider-Man. Sam Raimi did great work with those films. However, you start to get a little more questionable as you go down. You have Venom, which, I don't mind Venom. I think it's a fun movie. But it's not a masterpiece, and a lot of that is because it feels very mixed in tone, where things were changed after the fact, and that's not great. On the other hand, you also have The Amazing Spider-Man, which, while isn't bad or awful, well, it's a little bad. It's not awful, but it stumbles, it's got some good things in it, but it's missing stuff. It doesn't feel complete. It feels rushed. It feels like it was made, without a full understanding of what was trying to be done. Then you have some real rough ones, like Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3, we know pretty much is as a direct result of Sony's insistence on putting Venom in there. Even though it wasn't directly Sony, Sam Raimi was pressured into making that film the way that it turned out. And then you have The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which repeats pretty much the same mistake of trying to cram too much into a movie. You had to have Gwen die, you had to have Electro and the Goblin. Why are you doing so much? It's unnecessary. Let's compare this to Marvel, which has been 2 for 2 on Spider-Man solo films, and if you include Spider-Man's inclusion in the event films, as the CEO likes to refer to them as, 5 for 5. All of them are great films. They're all good. They all shine Spider-Man in a really good light. So, why would you want bad? You have good Spider-Man makes you money. It's as simple as that. You don't need to take him out. Just put him back in. All right. And the thing that made me most angry in this interview was the fact that he said it's a long life. as if to, say, it's not like we're taking him out forever, it's a long life, we could always come back to it. But if you're saying then that means that the door isn't closed. So you're saying it's closed for the moment, but if you know that at some point you'll probably come back to talks, just do it. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time. Everyone just wants Spider-Man to be in the MCU, and I'm not blaming this all on you, Sony, because it's not all your fault. But when your CEO is out here saying, the door's closed, but it's a long life, it's very infuriating. I want Spider-Man back in the MCU, and there's a lot of false news flying around, but, this is Variety, it's a direct interview, this is what you're saying. And I just gotta say, not happy with what you're saying, and I don't think most people are. Most people have said that they want Spider-Man to stay in the MCU, and I'm not trying to tell you how businesses work, but generally, the customer's right, you want to give the customer what they want. Another issue with this, it's a long life thing, is that So you're gonna make Spider-Man 3 without Marvel, which already has its troubles because how are you gonna fix the universe without referring to Marvel? But the other issue with this is that you're gonna be under a microscope now. If Spider-Man 3 has any issues in it at all, people are gonna tear it apart, regardless of whether or not it deserves it. It'll be torn to shreds. You're gonna have to make sure that you do it precisely right. And I know that at this point it seems like I am piling on Sony and saying that they're in the wrong. Because they are. But they're not entirely at fault. Disney came at them with a bad deal. I'm not going to lie. 30% stake in all Spider-Man movies, even ones that aren't Marvel, like MCU movies, plus having all the merchandising rights, is a bit much. It feels very unnecessary. But that being said, you can counter with better deals. Disney's making a lot of money on that merchandising. Spider-Man, to date, makes a lot more on merchandising than any other superhero, including Batman. So I don't know why you feel like you need that much off of the movies when that's really all the money Sony's making. Especially because I don't know why Marvel would need money from Venom or the Spider-Verse. I mean, I know that Sony wants to bring Venom into the MCU or potentially bring Spider-Man to Venom. And I feel like that's going to happen now because Marvel isn't there to say, hey, this is the way we should do it. Plus, Marvel does still own the TV rights to Spider-Man to a degree. So, for those that don't know, Sony has the rights to live-action, hour-long, or 40-minute episodes of Spider-Man. However, Marvel still owns the cartoon or the animated TV under 40-minute rights, 30-minute episodes, whatever. The way that it would work out. So again, it's like I don't know why Disney would feel the need to have all this because it's unnecessary. But that being said, Sony, don't close the door. I mean, I think everyone has spoken pretty much that they want to see Spider-Man in the MCU, and I don't think taking him out is going to do you or Disney any favors. With that being said, I just felt like I needed to get my feelings out there. When I read this article, I was pretty annoyed, and I felt like I should say something on it, because at least this is me putting my feelings somewhere. So let me know what you thought, guys. Let me know what you think about this whole situation in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Catch you next time. Bye.